You see, the strange thing about life is that it rarely comes to those who clutch at it. It does not bloom in the tight fist, nor in the mind that insists on shaping every moment into a tidy little pattern. Life, rather mischievously, has a way of slipping through our fingers the very moment we try to hold it still. And perhaps that is why the old saying whispers itself into the heart of anyone who dares to listen. Life blooms only in the unclenched hand. Imagine for a moment that you are standing by a quiet river. The water is clear, shimmering in the sunlight, each ripple a world unto itself. If you plunge your hand into the river and try to grab a fistful of water, you end up with nothing. But if you open your palm gently and allow the water to rest upon it, even for just a moment, the river reveals itself. Life is exactly like that. The more earnestly we try to possess it, the more insistently we demand certainty, control, and permanence, the more it slips away and leaves us perplexed, exhausted, spiritually winded. We humans are extraordinary creatures of tension. We grip and grasp not only objects, but ideas, identities, relationships, and even our own image of who we believe ourselves to be. We tighten around the future as though it were a rope pulling us towards safety. We tighten around the past as though it were an anchor preventing us from drifting. And all this tightening, this endless effort to keep things from changing, becomes the very thing that makes life feel small and airless. But the universe, if you watch it carefully, seems to unfold quite effortlessly. Trees never strain to stretch their roots into the soil. Birds do not agonize over the geometry of their flight. Clouds do not schedule their drifting. Everything simply expresses its nature without the slightest hint of self-consciousness. Yet we humans, endowed with this curious mind that can imagine, calculate, and remember, often fall into the peculiar illusion that the only way to live is to take life firmly by the throat and tell it how it ought to behave. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to fall asleep while desperately trying to fall asleep? The harder you try, the more awake you become. Why? Because effort is fundamentally at odds with surrender. And falling asleep, like falling in love, like falling into the rhythm of your own existence, requires a willingness to let go of the need to direct every detail. It requires an unclenching. When the hand relaxes, the world expands. Now this unclenched hand is not merely a physical gesture. It is a posture of the soul. It is the softening of that inner grip that holds so tightly to the idea of self. The self you believe you must defend, protect, improve, and preserve. The self you think is separate from the world around you. The self that is constantly whispering, "I must hold on, or everything will fall apart." But you see, life is not something you hold on to. It is something that moves through you, like breath, like time, like the river itself. We often imagine that letting go means losing something, as if release is a defeat. But release is not the end of life. it is the beginning of it. For in the space created by letting go, life can finally grow in its natural, unhurried way. A clenched hand cannot receive. It can only hold what it already has. But an open hand invites the world in. So the question is not how to make life bloom. The question is how to unclench the hand that has forgotten how to open. This is where the dance begins. For life, you see, is not a march. It is not a battle to be won or a puzzle to be solved once and for all. It is a dance, and every dance requires a certain willingness to move with the music rather than against it. If you cling too tightly to the steps, you stumble. But when you loosen your grip and allow the rhythm to guide you, something far more graceful begins to emerge. And so the paradox reveals itself. You do not make life happen by insisting on your way. You make life happen by allowing it to unfold in its own way. Just as a flower opens, not because someone pries it open, but because it simply reaches toward the sun, you too bloom when you stop forcing yourself to bloom. And when you begin to sense this, even faintly, something remarkable happens. The tension that once dominated your inner life starts to loosen, as if a great knot hidden in the chest quietly untangles itself. You discover that the world is not an adversary, but a companion. Existence is not a test, but a conversation. And you are not a separate observer trying to wrest meaning from life. You are part of the very movement that gives it shape. To unclench the hand is to trust this movement. Now, of course, trust is a curious thing. We often imagine trust as a kind of blind optimism, a naive belief that everything will be fine. But true trust is something much deeper. It is the recognition that you are in fact inseparable from the very flow you are trying to predict. The ocean does not trust the wave, it is the wave. And when you realize that you are not standing outside the universe trying to steer it, but are the universe expressing itself for a brief and shimmering moment, trust becomes the most natural state of being. But the ego, ever vigilant, whispers otherwise. It says you must remain in control. It insists that if you relax your grip, the world will collapse or wander off without you. The ego lives in a permanent state of clenched hands, convinced that tightening is the only way to stay alive. Yet, oddly enough, this very tightening is what makes life feel like a burden. You become like someone carrying a fragile vase across a narrow bridge, trembling with the fear of dropping it, never noticing that the bridge is wide and the vase is not nearly as fragile as you imagine. So consider the possibility that what you fear losing is not life, but the illusion of control. And illusions, when held too tightly, have a way of cracking. Life does not ask you to let go so that it may punish you. Life asks you to let go so that it may reveal itself. And when it does, you begin to see that the unfolding of your days has always been far more intelligent than the plans you tried to impose upon them. The path that felt like a detour becomes the very path you needed. The moment that seemed inconvenient becomes the exact moment that wakes you up. The mistake you tried so hard to avoid becomes the doorway you were unknowingly seeking. This is the art of the unclenched hand, allowing life to speak in its own language. Notice how love behaves in its natural state. Love that tries to possess quickly dissolves into anxiety. But love that allows, that breathes, that offers space for the beloved to be as they are, becomes something spacious and luminous. Love flourishes in freedom, not control. And you too flourish when you stop trying to force yourself into shapes that do not fit your nature. To live with an unclenched hand is not to drift aimlessly, nor is it to abandon responsibility. It is to participate in life with a kind of relaxed alertness, like a cat resting by the window, eyes half closed yet fully aware of the world. Presence without tension, engagement without grasping, effort without struggle. And when you begin to embody this openness, time itself feels different. The future no longer looms as a threat, nor does the past haunt you like an echo that refuses to fade. Both become gentle companions rather than tyrants. The present moment, which you may have overlooked for most of your life, reveals its quiet richness. You find that you can actually feel the breeze on your skin, taste your food fully, listen without rehearsing your reply, breathe without rushing toward the next breath. This is what it means to live. At the heart of all spiritual insight lies a simple truth that many find difficult to accept. Life is not something you master, it is something you join. And you join it not by tightening your grip, but by loosening it. Not by insisting on your script, but by allowing the improvisation of existence to carry you. Not by standing rigidly against the tide, but by bending ever so slightly until you find yourself moving with it. So let your hand uncoil. Let your mind soften. Allow the world to rush in like water filling an open palm. For in that gesture, delicate yet immeasurably powerful, life finally has room to bloom. And perhaps, as you walk through the quiet corridors of your days, you will begin to sense that the beauty of life was never something you needed to earn or capture. It was always waiting for the moment when you stopped trying so hard to hold it. Life blooms only in the unclenched hand.